So thank you everyone for coming. Is this on? Okay. It's starting. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Rabbi Lolian. Thank you, Mordechai. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. So just a little bit about me. So I'm a student at Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg since 1998, when I was a freshman at Yeshiva University. I had a lot of questions, and there's a lot of things I was interested in: the sciences, physics, mathematics, a little bit of everything. I changed my major like 6 times, and I found a website called inner.org. I started reading, started asking questions, and from there on, I just became a student, and that was really it for me. I've been trying to adapt and apply Rabbi Ginsburg's teachings ever since. I used to write articles, just incorporating his teachings with something in technology and science. I had those syndicated on Jewish Press and other places, and then I started writing books for Rabbi Ginsburg. Ultimately, I moved to Israel, and a very big honor was I was able to finish a book together, sitting in Rabbi Ginsburg's living room, and finishing that, editing together and finishing that book. So that's Frames of Mind, and it's available over here. And since then, just for basically the past 25 years, I've been editing and writing and adapting Rabbi Ginsburg's teachings. That's a little bit about me. So there's an interesting background behind this class. So I've been working on this material for about 2 years. I started off with videos. I had the videos transcribed, and then I edited. I spent a lot of hours editing, and something wasn't adding up. I didn't really know where to take the material. And maybe many of us can relate. Sometimes with a creative pursuit, you just don't know where it's going to go. And one day, I was editing a section on healing your identity. And my wife saw something on Facebook. It was an article that a friend of hers had shared about a book from 2 years ago. Around the same time as I started this material that I was now working on, 2 years later, like this is God's timetable, right? 2 years later, I'm editing this section on healing your identity, and she sends me this article about this book. Looked interesting, looked very interesting. I bought the Kindle version, and I realized that when you talk about things that have a spiritual dynamic, you need to know what are the words that people use for that in our generation. What do people call that, right? So it's nice to talk about Atzilus, the world of emanation, the world of Bria, world of creation, formation, and action. But what does that really mean, right? How do we incorporate that in our lives? What are the terms, and how are people referring to it? So this person in this book, this Dr. Jeffrey Rediger, spent 15 years researching something called spontaneous remission or spontaneous healing. Very interesting. Even more interesting is his conclusion. So I'll start with a little bit of a background about the book, and then we'll go from there, explaining the Torah behind what he reached in his 15 years of research. So this is a very well-respected doctor. He's an assistant professor at Harvard. He's the medical director in McLean Hospital. Very well-respected. But he had this dilemma that he just didn't know how to answer. Why is it that some people experience spontaneous remission or spontaneous healing, and others don't? There's medical science had no answer for these type of people. They were completely written off. According to medical science, these people had no chance whatsoever of survival, and yet they're completely fine. They're completely healed. So he interviewed dozens and dozens of people, hundreds of hours of research firsthand. He did this all himself in his late hours. He was working tirelessly. He didn't have a secretary or anything. Like, it's probably stacks and stacks all around his desk, trying to figure this out, trying to sort out what are the patterns between all these interviews, what's going on here? So he came up to what he called the pillars of health, these patterns that were common throughout all these people. And the first three pillars of health, very practical, very understandable. Heal your immune system, heal your nutrition, heal your stress response, right? Exercise, have a good diet, sleep, do all the things that most doctors would say this is something you should do. But he wasn't satisfied because he had people that did all those things and unfortunately didn't get better. And he had people that did nothing. They still were eating whatever they were eating, still whatever their sleep patterns, not exercising, not taking care of themselves, and they still experienced spontaneous remission. So again, he only interviewed people that the medical establishment said, we don't have any idea how you got better. There was no chance, but you got better. So it's an outlier. We don't know how to explain it.
Were they on medication at all?
So they tried. They went through whatever treatments. These are people that went as far as the medical community could take them. And as we'll see now, with a grandmother by the name of Claire, she tried everything. And ultimately the doctor said, just enjoy the rest of your life. So we're saying, obviously, listen to the doctors, listen to whatever healing practitioners. But at a certain point, medical science only goes so far. And as we'll explain, we all have these points in our life where we have these dilemmas, where we've reached the point of, okay, we need something deeper. We need to turn inside. So he tells the story of Claire, and he brings Claire throughout the book. And it seems like Claire really got him started thinking about what's really going on. Because remember, he started off with these three pillars, which are very practical, very understandable things. But he wasn't satisfied. So Claire, what did he see from Claire? Well, she tried everything, literally everything. Doctor said, there's nothing more we can do for you, just enjoy your life. And that's what she did. She spent time with her family, with her friends. And he says, when a person is confronted by death, they don't have time for anything else aside from that which matters most. Every moment is precious. Something we can all learn, right? Every moment is precious. So that's what she did. And she lived the life that she always wanted to live, her truest life, whatever she felt that was the truest for her. And she devoted her time to that which mattered most to her. And her doctor said something, a very interesting quote, and I'm going to just read it, that Claire surrendered to a new way of seeing and experiencing herself. And that's really what this is about. Surrendering to a new way of seeing and experiencing ourselves. We have to understand what that means. So 5 years later, right? According to the medical community, no chance that Claire was going to be around in 5 years. 5 years later, she's enjoying her life. She's out on her vacations and focusing on her family and friends. 5 years later, she goes to the hospital for something unrelated. And as part of this unrelated illness, she needs a CT of her abdomen. So she gets a CT of her abdomen. Well, as part of the abdomen, you have the pancreas, right? She had this terminal, God forbid, pancreatic cancer. Totally written off. 5 years later, no chance, again, no chance according to the medical community. 5 years later, she has a CT of her abdomen. Okay, as part of the CT of her abdomen, you have the pancreas. And they're just, as part of their routine, they're looking, nothing there. There's nothing there. The tumor is completely gone. So again, this is a class on what we can learn, and it's to understand the why, right? Dr. Rediger explains the what's. In his 15 years of research, in his dozens of interviews, firsthand interviews, hundreds of hours spent, he can only see patterns. He can only see empirical, not with his own eyes, what he's observed. And he was very excited to find this, because to find what he called the fourth pillar, the most important pillar, which is healing your identity. Just like Claire, that she lived her truest life. She lived that life that she surrendered to herself, as her doctor said. But what does that mean? What does it mean to heal your identity? So it came as like a result of all of this research, like a eureka moment, this lightning flash of this is the missing key. Why is it some people feel and some people don't? And so we're going to try to explain a little bit of the why and delve deeper and explain what the Torah has to say about this.
So someone asked, what's the name of the book again?
Yes. So the book is called Cured, Strengthen Your Immune System and Heal Your Life. And it's by Dr. Jeffrey Rediger. Okay. So we're going to explain both on a communal level and an individual level of what it means to heal our identity. So on a communal level, for the Jewish people, this means to be a light unto the nations, or la'ami, to take our place as teachers to the nations of the world. And as we'll explain, that first means to see the light within oneself. That's first and foremost, to see the light within oneself and then to be able to share with others. Now, on an individual level, we learn about healing your identity from a very well-known figure in the Bible, which is Joseph. Joseph's story is very fascinating in the amount of times that he was thrown down, right? He was thrown into the pit, and the Arab caravan came by, passing by, took him, and ultimately he was sold as a slave in Egypt to the house of Potiphar, one of the ministers of Pharaoh. And in short time, he wins favor with Potiphar, and he basically runs the household. And what happens? That one day there was a idol festival. They were worshiping the Nile River. They're all out on this idol fest. And Joseph didn't go to these things. He was there in the house. And Potiphar's wife, who had really longed after him for a long time, said, aha, this is my moment. This is my chance to get him. So she tries to seduce him very hard, very, very forcefully, tries to seduce Joseph. And what does Joseph do? He ultimately runs away, and she's left there holding a garment of Joseph. She was so embarrassed that when her husband comes home, she blamed it all on Joseph and said that he tried to attack me. Now Potiphar was probably didn't believe her, but in order to give honor to his wife, he threw Joseph in the dungeon, and there he remained for 12 years. But again, the same thing happens. In short time, he wins favor of the warden, and he's basically in charge of the entire prison. And after 12 years, the same thing happens for all of Egypt, that he finds favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and he's essentially the person who's managing Egypt, the affairs of Egypt. So how did Joseph get out of prison? That there was a dream that no one else could figure out. All of Egypt, all of the best and the brightest couldn't figure it out. And so the last resort, right, Joseph comes and he's able to interpret the dream. And Pharaoh, right, what is the dream? It was the two versions of the same dream of the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine. And what does Pharaoh say as a result? What does he call Joseph? He calls him a very cryptic, very interesting appellation, Safnat Paneach. What does that mean, Safnat Paneach? So we can understand from the context what Safnat Paneach means. It basically means a revealer of the hidden or the concealed. That something that was dark for everyone, a dream that no one could figure out, Joseph could figure it out. And it's taught that in the merit of standing up and not falling to this test of seduction with Potiphar's wife, he was able to reveal ultimately what was dark for others. So this is the beginning of understanding what it means to heal your identity. Is that we all have this light inside. We all have what's called our yechida shebenefesh, the highest part of our soul. And the same letters as yechida is the Hebrew word chida, which is our riddle. Riddle. We all have this riddle inside. And not only do we have this riddle inside, it's the highest expression of ourselves. It's the highest level of our soul. It's that spark within. It's always alive and always excited and always inspired to serve God. It's our purpose. It's our mission in life. And when we reveal that inner riddle, then we're able to not only shine, to see the light within ourselves, but shine that light to others. So what does it mean to be healthy in Jewish thought? So it's the difference, little mathematics, not too much, between 49 and 50. That 50 is the 50 gates of understanding on Shavuot, the giving of the Torah. We get the 50th level of holiness. And 49 is equal to the Hebrew word choleh, which means sick. So just missing a little bit of allowing the light of God, the infinite light of God, to penetrate us, the Or Ein Sof, and penetrate every cell of our being, all our limbs. That's the difference between being healthy and not. Sounds very nice. What does that mean for us? Well, healing your identity. What does it mean to heal your identity? It means to, first, sometimes we have to withstand trials. It also means returning to our true selves. Right now we're in the month of Elul. It's a time for personal stock taking, cheshbon nefesh, where we all look back on the past year, look at where we want to be in the year to come. And it's time to return to our true selves. Right? What is return? To shuvah, to repent, which is not a great translation. To shuvah is to shuv hey, to return to God, to connect to our true part of God within us, to align ourselves with God in the reason for which He created us to begin with.
Is that the riddle? The God in us? Is that the riddle?
That's the riddle. That's the yechida shebenefesh. That's the highest level, the highest expression of our soul as our inner riddle. And by revealing that, right? Well, how did Joseph reveal the riddle in others? First, he revealed that riddle in himself. He revealed that ability to interpret dreams. Most of us, we have dreams, we remember them, we don't remember them. Joseph had a sense, one of the 12 senses of the soul, according to Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, is the sense of dreams. So he was aware of again, and all of this was in the merit of preserving his light, of withstanding the test of temptation. And in that, he was able to reveal not only his light, but solve other people's riddles, right? This is ultimately taking his place as an Or La'amim, a light to the nations.
Is that rectified only through the sexual rectification, or everybody's riddle is different?
So, right, that's how Joseph revealed it, and that is one way that's brought often. But it's in order to clarify to preserve one's potential, and then to be in touch. We're going to have a workshop after of what are you most inspired by. That's the other way to look at it. Is what drives you? What are your passions? What part in Torah do you feel most connected and excited about? And that is something that we all readily can experience. Okay, so we're going to get to that. Okay. So this again is, Dr. Rediger has explained a little bit about about the importance of healing your identity, but now we're starting to understand it's both to take our place on a communal level and to take our place on an individual level, to take our place as communal teachers to the light of Torah to the nations of the world, and also to uncover our own riddle, our own secret within, which is also revealing our origin story, right? We all have that reason, that purpose for which we originally were created when our soul first came down. And to remember the time before our testament and our trials, before maybe the soot, tried to cover up all that inspiration and passion and drive that we originally had. And that's part of the healing process of healing our psyche and ultimately healing ourselves, is to believe in ourselves, to believe in our potential to heal the world, to play a part in bringing the redemption, right? And that comes through revealing our potential, through actualizing our potential. So it's very interesting that a commonality between the book Cured and Rabbi Ginsburg's Body, Mind, and Soul is about the importance of healing the immune system. But Rabbi Ginsburg says specifically the way to heal your immune system is through healing your identity, which is, again, going back to healing your identity, knowing what your purpose in life is and revealing that, what your drive, what your inspiration, what your passion is, and connecting that with Torah, with holy pursuits. And so it's just phenomenal that this book that was published years, Body, Mind, and Soul was published years before Cured, probably while Dr. Rediger was still trying to figure out everything in his research. This already we knew. We knew a long, long time ago about the importance of healing your identity. Yes.
Is it true that the healing that Shlomo had, and that each mitzvah was connected to a sickness, and through doing a mitzvah, you were able to heal, and that book was so powerful that they hide the book, right?
Are you familiar?
It's more that it says that there was a healing that they healed, I think. The skill did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people would stop praying to God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would use that book.
Okay.
So I was asking, did he use mitzvah or there was something else?
Okay. Well, then we're good, because this lecture is all about connecting to God. So we're good. We don't need to hide this class away after and hide it. So, right. So again, we're in the time of Elul. So when I was working on these teachings and trying to figure out the right approach for 2 years, I was working on this. Not only did it come, did this article about this book come at the right time, but also it's in the month of Elul, which is a very auspicious time, and also it relates to today's Torah reading for those that read the Torah portion every day. So we're going to start explaining that what does it mean to see the light of Torah, right? This infinite light of God. How do we experience that in our lives? Well, a very good and very clear way to do that is to open up the Torah, to live with the times, as the Alter Rebbe and as the Rebbe said, to really relate, live with the Parsha, the weekly Torah portion, live with the Torah all around us. Right? If we need an answer, we can look into the Torah for those answers. So in this today's Torah reading that we had for Monday, we read about the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, returning a lost object. So how does that relate to here? So first, let's read about. We'll just read this verse. So shall you do with his donkey, and so shall you do with his garment, and so shall you do with any lost article of your brother, which he has lost and you have found. You shall not ignore. So talking about the importance of don't ignore it. If you see a lost object, you pick it up and you return it to its owner. So on the one hand, this can relate to tzedakah, right, to charity, that a person is supposed to give at least the 10th of their income, a maaser, a tithe. And if a person made the $100, maybe they didn't give the $10 yet, so it's maybe in their pocket, but it's not. It belongs to another person, and so we kind of understand that through tzedakah. But also there's an idea of, if, and this is explained by Rabbi Ginsburg, that if a Jew loses their identity, it's a mitzvah to not ignore it and to pick it up and return it to them. This is amazing, because again, this relates exactly to what we're talking about, specific to this Torah reading, specific to this day of the Torah reading. The mitzvah of a Shabbos Veda, returning a lost object, relates to this very topic of healing your identity. That if you, both within oneself, to pick up and reveal our own identity, but if we see in another person an opportunity to pick up and return their identity to them. This is unbelievable. And again, this only happens towards the end. When I was preparing for this, I'm like, this is the light of Hashem. This is the light of Torah. So the idea is, how do we recognize both how to heal our identity, and how do we recognize how to pick up and heal someone else's identity? And again, that comes through finding that particular purpose for which we were created for. To uncover our riddle within our highest level of our soul, and to find our place in Torah, and to be motivated, to be inspired, to have that light us up, and then to use that light to become an Olamim, to teach and to give to others in order to help them to find their identity. So not only, and this has to, again, it has to do with teshuvah, returning to God, and also returning to our truest selves. And by returning to our truest selves, then we can then help others to find themselves. So not only does this class that I started preparing 2 years ago have to do with Elul, not only did my wife send me the article at the right time, just the right time, not only does it have to do with today's Torah reading, it also has to do with today's Hayom Yom. So what's the Hayom Yom? Is that the Lubavitcher Rebbe broke up teachings and aphorisms, short lessons, according to the days of the week, the days of the year. And the beginning of the entry for the 9th of Elul is as follows. And this is a person that views, all of us can do this. You each can ultimately be up here doing the same thing. You're just seeing that the Torah is alive. Seeing it's not a history book, it's not something with dust on it, it's alive. This is the living word of God. So this is from today's Hayom Yom. My grandfather said, in reference to Hitbonenut, the profoundly concentrated contemplation on a subject extremely difficult to comprehend, if the subject is of deep personal concern, the person will come to understand and comprehend it very well. So what does that mean? Is that by seeing those things in Torah that inspire us, that we're excited about, then we'll also be able to comprehend it in a very deep way. And if we can comprehend it in a very deep way, maybe we'll uncover riddles and secrets and then be able to give it over to others, and they'll be like, wow, how did you come up with that? Well, this relates to my soul roots. This relates to why I'm here. This is something for all of us. It's not, you have to learn, some Encyclopedia Britannica or something. You pick up a book, you open it, and it's there for you. The original, in the 70s, when Rabbi Ginsburg had more time, now there's a whole educational network throughout Israel, and his time is not as available. But in the 70s, he had more time, and people came to him with all types of psychological questions. And he could have answered them, but he knew that something that would stick with them is whatever sefer, whatever Jewish book was nearby, pick it up, open to a random page, and they start learning with them. Those people, decades later, are still students of Rabbi Ginsburg. In the secular world, they call it bibliotherapy. It's the closest term they have for that. It's through Torah, through the infinite light of God. It's everywhere. So you just, whatever it is, you pick it up and you'll find your answer. So I have some stories about picking up and returning identities. First, there is the Rebbe would stand for hours while people waited on Sundays to receive dollars. And someone once asked, Rebbe, how can you not get tired standing 6, 7 hours, maybe more? So the Rebbe said, when you're counting diamonds, you don't get tired. Right? So this is what the Rebbe said, that he only sees the diamond. And if you see a diamond in the street, it belongs to someone, presumably. So you pick it up and you return it to him. Shavas Veda, returning a lost identity. Helping another to heal their identity. So this is that's just a prelude to this story. So some years ago, there was a young man who was going through just a psychological anguish. We talked about Claire, how she was at her limits. Well, this man was at his limits. At his limit. And he called Rabbi Garari, Shliach in Buffalo, and said, Rabbi, if you don't prove to me that there is a God, and meaning if he's not convinced, then I'm going to kill myself. So Rabbi, hearing that, what does he say? So this was some years ago, and the Rebbe was there in 770. And his brother-in-law was also in New York, Rabbi Garari's brother-in-law. So he said, don't worry, ask that question to the Rebbe. The Rebbe will answer the question. So he sets this man up with his brother-in-law, and they go to Rabbi Klein, the secretary of the Rebbe, and Rabbi Klein says, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. At that time, it was like impossible to get a private audience with the Rebbe, not only for that day, for the next day, but also maybe some months in the future. I mean, there was just no time, no ability to do it. So this man said, I'm not willing to wait. I'm not willing to wait that long. So Rabbi Garari's brother-in-law said, in a whisper, like, don't tell anyone I told you. But the Rebbe is about to leave, about to go to his car. Just wait there. Just wait beside the car, and ask your question then. So that's what this man did. He waited beside the Rebbe's car, and the Rebbe comes out. Now, when the Rebbe comes out, no longer did he have that question, prove to me that there's a God, like something philosophical, like prove to me that there's a God. He sees the Rebbe, obviously there's a God. His only question was, where is God? That's all that remains after seeing the Rebbe in front of him, where is God? So the Rebbe lifted up his hands and went like this. Meaning, God is everywhere, right? So this man, he instantly regretted what he said after that. He said, can you imagine? He said, seriously, Rebbe. Right? Like the Rebbe wasn't being serious the first time. Seriously, Rebbe, where is God? So the Rebbe smiled and pointed to his heart. And the Rebbe went to his car. And the man went to 770, sat down and cried for hours and hours. What happened? So this man said, who later became religious and observant, he said that I didn't know who I was. And if I don't know who I was, then why am I here? There's no purpose for me to be here. There's nothing, my life is not meaningful. What am I doing with my life? So, God forbid, But he said, at that moment, he realized not only does he have a purpose in the mission, he's a Jew, part of the Jewish people, and he has very specific things that God wants from him. And so he totally changed his life. transform his life. And so where does that come from? So once there was a reporter who had a lot of experience interviewing celebrities, and she went to the Rebbe to interview him. I guess it's part of her tour or something. You know, this is what she does for a living. So she went to the Rebbe, and she was so taken aback that unlike everyone else who just talked about themselves and their own accomplishments, the Rebbe only talked about her, only was interested in her. And her interests, her pursuits, things that she's passionate about, things, you know, maybe some goals that she can have in her life. And this is what it means to return an identity, is that to only see that diamond in that other person, to return it, not to ignore, and to first identify that diamond within oneself, and to believe in oneself. That man didn't believe in himself. He didn't see a purpose first of all, and then he didn't know his own potential. But the Rebbe saw it and believed in him. So this is all spiritual, right? Spiritual dynamics. How does this come down? So the idea is that the light of faith is compared to light. You know, we're letting the infinite light of God in. It should become an instrument for healing our body. And we can ask God to heal us, and we can ask God for anything we want. But first we connect and align ourselves and connect ultimately to our true purpose inside. Rabbi Moshe Ganuth, who's going to be here in a few days, with a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story about his healing experience. And he went to Rabbi Usher Freund, who was a big, holy tzaddik in Jerusalem. And I'll just share with you what Rabbi Usher said to Moshe. And Moshe was experiencing an ailment that other people were healing from, and he wasn't healing from it. He said he was like, just it was taking over. He didn't know how to get better. So he said, when I entered Rabbi Usher's room, I asked him, how can it be that others managed to heal from this illness and I have failed? Rabbi Usher replied resolutely, because you don't yet believe that you will be healed. We have to believe in ourselves before we do anything else. That's really the take-home message. Not only that, but that the light of faith, it can become a vessel for healing, and Moshe got better. And thank God he's going to be here in a few days. So before we start the workshop portion, is there any questions?
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So we have notepads and pens. So while we're handing that out, everyone can see we have a first of all Moshe's classes coming up, and also talking about believing in oneself. That's in Kabbalah. It relates to revealing that sense of wonder, to reliving that sense of wonder that we had as a kid. So we have our booklet called Wonders, very appropriately enough, and it's also comes out weekly. So again, it's about seeing that divine providence in our lives through the weekly Torah portion, to live with the weekly Torah portion. As it says, there's one section actually, living with the times. So this is to relate the weekly Torah portion to those things again that we're most passionate about, most inspired by.
Can you get this online?
Yeah, there's a PDF.
Right, there's a PDF file should sign up for the newsletter, and anyone who agrees to get at least 10 copies to give out, extra copies can also get for free.
So if anyone wants to have a private audience with Moshe, you can contact the phone number on the slide.
So there's a phone number on the flyer for anyone who would like a private audience with Moshe. So Rabbi Ganuth is one of the leading students of Rabbi Ginsburg. He's my personal mentor, and we highly encourage people to show up to his classes. He's phenomenal. So. Okay, so we're gonna get started with the workshop. So the first question is, what is your riddle? That passion that you feel most connected to? Again, just list out anything that comes to mind, those interests that you have, hobbies that you feel are talents, pursuits, just those things that excite you, motivate you, inspire you. Just free form, just write out anything that comes to mind. You're going to be quizzed on this later. So,
What was the question?
so what is your riddle? Again, a riddle is some secret that you're trying to reveal within. And what does that mean? Is those things that you're most excited about, passionate about, those things that motivate you, those things that you maybe feel your talents and abilities. Again, we're trying to align ourselves. Okay, we'll give another few seconds for that. And those people online should also do this. We don't have the pen and paper for you, but hopefully you also are participating. Okay, now the second question is, what is your origin story? What is the first time that you had either one or more of these dreams, that maybe as a child that you were inspired by this thing? And again, we're trying to get that point of innocence. The mazel of the month of Elul is also in the Basula, which relates to innocence and purity. So we want to try to see that in ourselves. What is our personal origin story? It's the second question. What is that moment when we first were inspired by these things that we're passionate about, that we're driven by, that inspire us, that motivate us? Okay, so then it can anyone who wants to share is encouraged to share. We all have a letter in the Torah. We all have our place in the Torah, and each of us can place those passions and dreams and interests and ambitions. We can find our place in the Torah. Right. That was today's Hayom Yom reading. While finding those things that most excite us, motivate us. It says personal concern, right? These are things that are a manifestation of those particular things that we feel are very, very much related to our lives and our pursuits. So anyone would like to share?
I can share.
Sure. Sure.
Things I'm passionate about. I like to matchmake people. I love public speaking. I like to socialize. I like to sing and dance. I like to be in social environments.
Okay. You mind if I'm able to read it for the people online?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay, great. That's great.
Okay, good, because I actually asked for me to repeat things.
Okay, this is matchmaking, public speaking, helping others, socializing, eating, singing, and dancing. That's a great
Yes, this thing.
great list.
Maybe as a
and your origin story. This is amazing. That's the fun part of it. It's just real time. You know, right? You didn't submit your questions in advance, right? What number is under your seat? Just kidding. Okay. And then this is origin story. When I sang at a Hanukkah party for Chabad, and I was asked to do a solo. Okay. So a person's voice, that's, I'm seeing like a common thing here, finding your voice and expressing yourself, and it's beautiful. There's actually finding one's voice is related to also finding one's potential. Each of us are finding our voice in life. And what does that mean to find our voice in life? So I actually, you know, there's an infinite number of answers, right? And the rabbi can help you. There's an infinite number of answers. I just, something that personally, something that I'm excited about was actually included in Rabbi Ginsburg's first email to me in 1998. And he talked about Perek Shira. Are you familiar with Perek Shira? The Perek Shira was compiled by King David. And there it includes some examples, but all of creation is singing praises to God at every moment. And there it gives some examples of, it has verses in the Psalms of different things in creation that are singing the praises of God. So the ability to share, to sing the praises of God is something that we wanted other people to hear. We wanted other people to hear that. And that's something that maybe, just an idea, maybe learn Perek Shira.
Try it.
The rabbi can, I'm sure, help you with that. Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. So that's a good, listen to something that came to mind. Okay, anyone else? Okay,
Okay.
sure.
So I said I want to make a difference in the world. And my origin story is I want to be a psychologist when I was a child, teenager. Want to repeat that?
Yes, to make a difference in the world, and her origin story is to be a psychologist or therapist when she was a teenager,
Child.
a child. Okay. So they say that this is not completely fair because I had a little practice. This is my wife, so I had a little practice. But the Hasidic movement is, we're talking about when Mashiach comes and the redemption comes, that people will be healed, that will be healing. And first, and really, the Hasidic movement was a healing of the psyche, a way to heal our psyche and to rectify our psyche. Rabbi Ginsburg has a whole school called Torah to Nefesh, which is psychological healing based on the Torah. And there's many classes available online, many of them by Rabbi Gunuth and others. And this idea of again, feeling the need to be there for others, to help others, is a very, it's really much what we've been talking about, of trying to share our talents and abilities and turn it outward in order to help others. And ultimately to share, shed light and to inspire others. Both of us, we were at a singles event this past Shabbos in NOLA, Sola. I was in Sola in Pico. And there we both spoke, and then we sat for hours and hours talking with the people afterwards. And the constant thing that I was saying is that 2-3 years ago, I would never have imagined that I would be here, both remarried and also speaking and also inspiring others. And that ability to believe in oneself doesn't come automatically, right? But once a person believes in themselves, then they can be there for others and to maybe to give some encouragement that in short time you'll also be in a place where you'll hopefully these people, it was a singles event, so hopefully be married and happy. But it's really helpful when a person has gone through something and sometimes it seems like it's the craziest thing to have faith, to still believe. For Joseph, he was a consummate optimist, and you could say, why would you remain so optimistic with all that happened to you? But he stayed optimistic, and in that merit, he was able to stay inspired as well, and ultimately to reveal the light when other people couldn't. So that's what I would say in terms of being a therapist, and obviously I encourage my wife in that. But it's very noble in wherever we feel that we can benefit others. It's a very, very noble thing. The floor is open. Anyone else?
I like to share. I'm thinking if I got the question right, so I'm still
Sure.
trying to figure it out. Okay, so the things that I'm passionate about, right? That was the first question.
Right.
Okay, that I'm a Sephardic Jew.
Sephardic Jew.
Okay, so is learning Torah.
Learning Torah.
Okay, and anything that has to do with the Torah, and 3 is loving wifey.
Loving wifey. It's so nice. It's beautiful. Okay. And did you do the origin story?
Origin was my parents in Iran inspired me greatly to start my journey to come closer to Hashem.
Beautiful. My parents in Iran inspired me greatly
My parents, so yeah, with my family and everybody.
to serve Hashem. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so you want to, just so I have it in front of me?
I didn't know if I got the question.
No, that was beautiful.
I tried.
No, you did a great job.
I tried to cheat. But it wasn't.
Beautiful job. So, I mean, I like to to kind of put things in a system. It's like you have here like a nice triad, so I can't ignore it.
Okay.
I'm not a Kabbalist, but it's just if it helps people to understand. So you have your origin, which is typically on the right side of the tree of life model in Kabbalah. So I'm not going to say what spirit is or anything like that. I'm just to help to place it. These 3 things it's beautiful. So that's one's origin. Where do they come from? So I am a Sephardic Jew, so that's perfect. And then on the left side is Bina. You have Ima Banim Smecha, the woman with the children is happy. And the wife is loving one's wife. You have both sides there. So you know where you come from, and your wife is taking you forward in life in terms of growing and growing, which is more of what the left side is about, of the evolutionary process of growing and growing every day. And then learning Torah Torah relates to Yaakov, which is the central axis, to Jacob, and that's that guides you throughout every day throughout your life.
I feel very balanced.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. I mean, again, I'm not Rabbi Ginsburg, and it's just nice to see that it's just so beautiful. It's just all right here. And then the inspiration from your roots, your parents, is all of this. I'm in the year of Avelis for my father, and it's the fact that I'm getting out here and speaking and all of that is really inspired by my father, who's really this advocate and guide. So we all have our parents and grandparents and so forth.
My grandma that passed away really inspired me. Like that, I learned Judaism through my grandma, basically as a kid. She raised me.
Yeah, I learned also through my grandmother. I learned faith.
Yeah,
it's just simple faith.
Yeah.
She wasn't religious, but and not only that, but she experienced that wonder of all of creation. And so it's just beautiful, connecting. And thank you for sharing. It's really beautiful. Again, disclaimer, I'm not a Kabbalist, but I do this all the time, so I just couldn't help myself. All right. Anyone else? Going once. Yes.
So I noticed the past few years, like everyone in society chooses getting like more spiritual, like we have our own way of spirituality, we have the Zohar, we have finding the expenses or to some degree. We have our own way of, there's Kabbalah, we have our own way of connecting to God spiritually, and then there's also these like people, like society as a whole, everyone's getting like more spiritual, quote unquote, Jews and non-Jews. So we think there'll be some kind of a breaking point where people are just not going to care anymore. They're just going to say, forget this. We don't, it's too much spiritual. There's in Judaism and in non-Judaism. We think there's going to be some kind of a breaking point.
Your
Just thinking I see in society. What do you think?
How do I sum that up? So
I didn't get the question.
do you mind giving it so people online can hear? I mean, basically that he sees the spirituality increasing, both for Jews and non-Jews, and he feels like maybe there's going to be some kind of a breaking point where people think that they've had enough. Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So the biggest activity that Rabbi Ginsburg is invested in right now, and he says it's the most important activity, is what he calls the fourth Torah revolution. And you can look at it on inner.org. It's basically there are tzaddikim, there are righteous Jews that are aware of the times that they're living in, those that aren't, and he's very much aware and very sensitive to these times that we're living in. And just a few years ago, he announced that in a very great way, we have to increase our teaching of the Torah to the nations of the world. Not only to increase, but they're ready. The Esav is ready. The Western civilization is ready. And we're working on different projects around that. The way that I typically view the modern world is they're trying to keep up with the revelations. Anyone who's heard a class from Rabbi Ginsburg, he used to be able to go 6-7 hours. Now he doesn't have that type of a strength. He should have a before Shlema. Yitzchak Bavish from Lana Malko. But 6-7 hours straight, no breaks, nothing, no music, no, just straight revelation, downloads, like download from above. And what you see, and this was prophesized in the Zohar, that and this started at the time of around the time of the Industrial Revolution, is that you had this great resurgence of innovation. And the way that I view it is that the modern world is trying to keep up to the best of their ability to keep us distracted, right? Because you have all these revelations of Torah, so much, always. It's like it is infinite. It's always being revealed. But in order to keep us on our phones and looking at what's going on, so then you have the quickening of the natural world of the news cycle and everything like that. But it's all paper, like the paper tiger. You know the story of a paper tiger. It's just paper. You just walk through and you're there to the other side. So I will say, in kind of appreciating your question, is that the idea is not that there should be more and more miraculous that's totally overwhelming us. The idea is that more and more should be integrated within nature. That's a higher level according to Chassidus. That a miracle should be part of the natural order, but should be weaved into the natural process. Like if a time traveler from 50 years ago, if he comes and he sees all the inventions today, he would think that this is all wondrous, right? All the innovations today, you would think that this is just something magical or something. But we experience this every day, so we don't necessarily see it. So part of opening up our sense of wonder is like seeing the world with like childlike eyes, like a newborn. Everything is wondrous. So I hope maybe that answers a little bit.
Yeah, that's the, you gave an awesome answer. And I just have another thought. I want to piggyback on what you were saying about the non-Jewish world trying to keep up. In my opinion, I don't think they're capable of picking up because I have conversations with non-Jews all the time, randomly. And, I ask them, if you see the splitting of the sea right in front of you today, would you like convert to Judaism? Would you not be a Christian anymore? Would you just follow the no Bible? What would you do? They're saying, well, no, it doesn't matter. I've been born a Christian. That's how I'll always be. I'll just find the answer in Christianity. So it's not about them keeping up. I don't think they're capable of picking up based on certain spiritual programming they have within them. That's the thing. So what is like? So it's saying yes, we're all along spirituality to us, but like, what is the point of that if non-Jewish people cannot? It's not about them keeping up; they're not capable of picking up based on certain on a soul level where they are, because the souls of Jews come from one place, and the souls of non-Jews come from a different place. It's not a better words; it's just they come from different places. So, if that's a fact, and we know that that's a fact, that the souls come from different places. In my opinion, I don't think they're capable of, because of that fact, I don't think they're capable of keeping up. That's the thing.
Well, first off,
You have to repeat the question.
so he doesn't feel like the non-Jews are able to keep up because the dynamic of their soul is different. And he brought some examples, but it's basically. So first of all, I have a friend who's probably listening. So he learns so much, and when I talk to him, like we relate on such a deep level. And I've seen many examples over the years of people like that are non-Jews that are very much getting it on their level. So I didn't maybe explain it so well, but the idea of picking up a lost identity, to lose an identity, that's specific to the Jewish people. To be an Or L'Amim and to awaken the purpose in a non-Jew. So that's what we can do for the nations of the world, is to awaken them and to inspire them to in their own way to serve God. So it's not called having them find their identity. It's giving them meaning and purpose. Some weeks ago, I was in, I go everywhere. Where is it? La Brea. I was in La Brea. And I was helping this person with following along with the pages during the prayer service, because they weren't announcing the pages, and I was helping him. And then I could see that he was kind of lost. So I sat down with him after the morning Shabbos services, and he was a non-Jew who found some videos on YouTube 2-3 years ago during the pandemic, and he couldn't go back. His entire life was totally turned upside down, and now he didn't know what to do. So thankfully, he found a synagogue that was welcoming, but he still didn't really understand his place. So I said, listen, if you're born, that means you have a purpose. And you see everyone here, how happy they are, because they feel like they're forwarding things along towards the redemption. They feel like they're a partner with God and really together in this, of making the world a holy place. So in your own way, you have that mission, you have a purpose, and you have to figure out what that is. So to start off by helping the teachers, that's one of the things. It says that if the nations of the world knew the value of the Holy Temple, they would send, armies to protect it. If they knew the value, they would send armies to protect it. So that's one thing that the non-Jewish nations can do. They can be supporters of Israel, and either financially or with their weapons or whatever. But this person individually, in whatever way he can volunteer, I said you should start volunteering. There's always people in need. You should start volunteering, learn and volunteer. And I also directed him to some Noahide material. But this is something that there's just a readiness. And I don't say this because of me. I say this because of Rabbi Ginsburg, who's just following along with what the Baruch Rebbe said. So this is there, and we see this readiness, and it's time for that to really reach the tipping point and to bring Mashiach.
Do you want to hear someone's
Sure,
riddle and origin story?
sure.
So my riddle is loving plants, creating on many levels, connecting with others, and creating healing experiences and environments, art, beauty, and performing. Origin story is spending time alone in nature in my imagination and prayer as a child, singing, performing, or sharing my writing and art, and watching how others are touched and how I am changed by the sharing process, being impacted and healed by beauty and beautiful spaces as a child and teen, being touched and feeling seen when witnessing others writing and art as a teen.
See, here we have a little notepad, and so there it's much longer. Can you read it again?
You want me to turn? You want to look at it, or?
Just if you can read it again.
All right. My riddle: loving plants, creating on many levels, connecting with others, and creating healing experiences and environments, art, beauty, performing.
Okay,
Origin story:
sure.
spending time alone in nature in my imagination and prayer as a child, singing, performing, or sharing my writing and art, and watching how others are touched and how I am changed by the sharing process, being impacted and healed by beauty and beautiful spaces as a child and teen, being touched and feeling seen when witnessing others writing and art as a teen.
Yeah, that's all Yetzirah. It's all the world of formation. It's the artistic expression, and it's also the world of emotion. And to learn about what it means to express creativity, Rabbi Ginsburg has a lot on Yetzirah. It's basically the world of forms, to see things as free-flowing forms and artistic modes of expression. Even if a person's in nature, to view it in a very artistic way. And I would encourage you to anything on creativity, any class of Rabbi Ginsburg on creativity talks about ultimately the expression, artistic expression in the Olam HaYetzirah, the world of formation. I mean, there's many artistic people that are drawn to Rabbi Ginsburg. So there's so much material available. Also, art is the same root letters as faith. So it's also believing in oneself. That's first and foremost, believe in one's own creative potential. Because that's another way to frame all of this, is to believe in one's own creative potential. And we learn from Joseph. Any other online questions?
That's it.
Okay, so I'm going to, yes.
I like to see rabbis if he likes to share his. Very interesting secrets. If you're okay with that,
I'm still confused.
maybe me too. I was confused, so that's why.
No, you got it perfectly. So I'm sure the rabbi, sure whatever it is, it's
Yeah.
perfect.
What's my riddle, my passion? It's actually helping people get closer to Hashem. And where did I get that from? When I came out of Iran, I was 13 years old, and I came to Chabad. And honestly, when I saw the Rebbe and the kindness, how much that was, that's what motivated me to start.
Do you feel like the Rebbe picked up your lost diamond and returned it to you?
I definitely believe so.
Maybe repeat.
No, there are many times, there are many challenges too.
Yeah.
People are not exactly what it says in the books of Chabad.
Yeah.
He was the true light that actually kept us. We didn't go off their way because of the wrong things that we saw. It was like the light of truth.
Yeah. So the Rebbe was talking about his experience when he was 13, and we saw the Rebbe and yeah. I mean, you want to relate it for the people online, or
That's what he said. I'm really shocked.
okay. So the Rebbe helped him in the light of truth. All right. So we talked about living with the times. So again, so this class started to come together 2 years ago through a series of videos. And then I had it transcribed, then spent a lot of time editing, and I didn't know what to do with it still 2 years later. And then thanks to my wife and thanks to that person who shared that article, that here we come to healing your identity. And now we're in the month of Elul, which is the perfect month to heal our identity. to really see where we came from in this, what we've done in the past year, and where we want to go in this year to come. And we related it to this week's Torah portion about the mitzvah of Shabbos Aveda, finding a lost object, and we related it to today's Hayom Yom portion about really connecting to those things in Torah that we're most passionate about. And in that, through that, then we will understand it deeply. And again, through uncovering our own riddle, we'll be able to, at the highest level of our soul, we'll be able to reveal the secrets of the Torah, specifically those things that we're most passionate about. And so let's look at today's Tanya. We're making a whole trifecta over here of the daily learning schedule, Chitat. So it would be really amazing if today's Tanya, Monday's Tanya, also related to our topic. And lo and behold, it does, like very, very clearly. When I saw this, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But Baruch Hashem, thank God, this is amazing. So I'll just read this, and I'll read the second part in Hebrew and English. Now the charity that issues from this source, from a soul's inherently kind and compassionate nature, is referred to as the act of charity. Kishem Maseh Nofel Al Davar Shekavar Nasa O Shanaseh Tamid Mimela. So anyone who knows Hebrew can probably guess what I'm about to say. For the term act, Maseh, applies to that which is already done or which is constantly being done spontaneously. So Tamid Mimela, there's some words in modern Hebrew for spontaneous, but this is a good, correct way to say it. Because it's Mamela, we do everything we can. We can't control the outcome. I can't, God forbid, guarantee anyone that they're going to be healed. That's up to God. But we have to do our part to heal ourselves and to align ourselves with our mission in life. We have to give God a very, very compelling reasons why we should be here. And He knows why we should be here, but we need to know that within ourselves. Those things that no one else can do, those things that only we can do in this world. And that applies both to Jews and non-Jews. We all have a purpose in this world. So if we have a purpose, we tell God, I'm sorry, I need to be here. These are things that only I can do. You need to keep me here. And B'derech Mamela, Tamid Mamela, it's instantly we ask for God, that God heals us. But that's as a result of doubling down on saying, listen, you created me. And I'm here for a purpose, and you have to keep me here longer. My Bobby used to say, she was so funny, that the reason why I'm here is because he doesn't want to deal with me, so he kept me down here. So I just argue, But we all, we have to have a little chutzpah, a little courage to fight with and say, no, God, you created me for a purpose. I'm recognizing my purpose. Maybe it's taking me a while, but I'm recognizing my purpose and I'm trying to believe in myself. Please help me to do that. So just to end, I hope everyone takes a Wonders booklet, takes Moshe's, Rabbi Ganuth, my mentor, takes his information and is able to come to his classes next week.
Send it to your friends.
And send it to your friends. Anyone who would like a private audience with Rabbi Ganuth should email the email on the flyer. And I have books here, the books that I did together with Rabbi Ginsburg. And anyone who is able to donate, this portion on Tanya was about charity. So again, we said that charity also relates to returning a lost object. Is that we made that $100 and we have that $10 in our pocket, and it's not ours. So whether you can give to the rabbi, you can give to Rabbi Ginsburg's organization, but the main thing is to give generously. And in the merit of giving tzedakah and redoubling our efforts in this to heal ourselves as we approach the new year, we should all have a blessed new year. Shana Tova, Kasiva B'Chutz Tova. Good year for everyone. Thank you.
Can we hold on to the notebooks? Actually,
You can hold on to the notebooks.
Someone wants to know if there's a link that they could use to pay Or is it Zelle or PayPal or something?
Right, so donations for those online can go to inner.org, or anyone who would like to donate, inner.org. There's also food in the back, and then there's books in the front. So, and I'm happy to, anyone who wants to come up with questions, I'm happy to do that as well.
Shut down the-
Yeah.
Can I see your
Do we keep the notebooks?
I haven't done it for a long
One more thing, there's a class Thursday night in Pico. Anyone who would like to get information, please leave your email. Thank you.
If you have extra boot plans about out into my show, okay?